A pleasant day to everyone. I am Dr. Eugenio, Dean of the School of Leadership and Advanced Studies of Wesleyan University, Philippines. I was tasked to offer a summative reflection of the just concluded ATA Theological Consultation webinar series, which is a difficult task because the four topics are quite diverse. It is quite a huge temptation to just repeat the many good points our presenters have said over the last 4 weeks, but I'm going to shy away from that approach. Here, I would like to share to you some of my personal observations and reflections. What we have done over the last four webinars is precisely to grapple together as a community of faith to understand and address big ethical issues. We have done this, thankfully, in the spirit of teachability, in the context of cultural and denominational diversity, and in the pursuit of dialogical reciprocity. Here are some of my notes. First, we are emphatically concerned about the rightful dignity of humans. Regardless of culture, geographical situatedness, age, or gender, we affirm that we are created in the image of God. In our discussions, we actually looked at the welfare of the other, the different one. In pursuing the ethical, it is clear to me that the evangelical community asserts that we do not primarily assert our rights. Instead, we promote the rights of the oppressed, the minority, the beaten, the half dead, the faceless, the voiceless. Second, we are unapologetically Christian in our approach. The scriptures remain our rule of faith and rule of practice. Our presenters argued for this with great gusto. The problem, however, is on the different hermeneutical principles we employ and their resulting diverse interpreted outcomes. It seems to me that there is no unified evangelical hermeneutics. There are only denominational, cultural, or even individualist hermeneutics. It is no wonder that the public square is confused about us, because they do not hear an echo. They hear multiple original voices claiming superiority and truthfulness over the others. And the worst thing is this: our passionate polemic targets other interpretations quite rudely in the presence of unbelievers. Third, I think we must humbly acknowledge, realizing both our human finitude and fallenness, the difficulty or impossibility of constructing ethical rules that must govern our multifarious situations. Although the dream of arriving at a consensus is mesmerizing, the cultural and religious diversity in Asia prevents us from achieving anything close to a unified voice. Now, this does not mean a fatalistic resignation to the status quo. It means that the responsibility of thinking about how the gospel may flourish in a particular specific soil and how it would produce fruits to feed the hungry community rests heavily upon the shoulders of local farmers or theologians. In short, we cannot expect others to do the work we should be doing for our own particular communities. At best, in theological consultations like this, we can ask for guidance and wisdom from others. But the actual reflective engagement must be borne by us in the field. Fourth, we need to engage ethical discussions with as many people as we can. The principle of participation must be underscored, which means that the recipients of support, recipients of intervention or policy implementation must be given a voice in the process of defining, determining, or implementing something. This also means that we cannot offer solutions to social issues as observers or as people branded as outsiders. Ethical discussions must have incarnational engagement as a prerequisite. Our engaging presence needs to be felt in areas that are important to the global village, such as what was mentioned in the fourth webinar, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. How is the church responding to the needs that the global village feel are important? Fifth, we need to realize that moral consciousness is not the exclusive prerogative of the church. The world has come a long, long way. Society has become more sensitive to issues of equality and the power of the minority. National and international affairs are now under the scrutiny of prying eyes. Because of the advances in media and information technology, members of the global village have become more sensitive to ethical issues. In short, the church is no longer seen as judge and voice of justice. The church itself is under judgment. Because of the dark patches of our own church history, we no longer possess a higher moral ground. Changes in society's perception of the church, the socio-political transitions of power, the shifting paradigms related to family expectations, gender equality, sexual boundaries, human rights, and definitions of justice need to be carefully considered in the way we participate in the discussions held at the public square. Unfortunately, the church has lost its authority, moral ground, as the authority in ethical issues. And that is something that is quite saddening, but it can also challenge us. Where are we right now? And where should we go from here? Finally, every person is an ethicist. As ethicists, our decisions and actions are guided by scriptures, our cultural belongingness, our socio-economic situatedness, our age, gender, and various other variables. Even young children are not spared from ethical decision making. The second webinar made us painfully aware of the dilemma exploited children face in choosing between two evils, whether to be abused or to see their family hungry. But actually, this is the Asian phenomenon, particularly experienced by those living in developing countries. Almost every action is ripe with ethical conundrums. In nations where there is rampant corruption, gripping poverty, and limited access to various supports, Christians are forced to commit questionable behavior in the simple acts of getting a signature from government agencies, getting a driver's license, applying for a job, or even the simple task of driving a car to arrive at a destination on time. Sometimes we are forced to commit questionable acts. It is therefore not too exaggerated to conclude that most Asian Christians are living in guilt and shame. Forced by situations beyond our own control, the mere fact of continued existence and enjoyment of little success may itself be an evidence of countless moral failures. If we add the fact that in many areas civil laws demand the opposite of biblical imperatives, the Christian might be guilty of violating one or the other in pursuit of a perceived higher good. Whether we recognize it or not, Christians become unwilling masochists, weighed down by a deep psychological burden. It is for this reason that I lean towards agreeing to Bernard Wong's rejection of the notion of ethical rules. My fear is this: clear-cut universal ethical rules may push already struggling brothers and sisters to further demoralization. And the words of Peter ring into my head, the words that he uttered at the Council of Jerusalem. Why do you try to test God by putting on the necks of Gentiles a yoke that neither we nor our ancestors have been able to bear? Acts 15:10. Let me be clear. I am neither advocating a logic of arbitrariness nor an absolute suspension of ethics. What I propose is a logic of grace. Once we identify grace as the ground and grammar of our ethical discussion, We begin to be more generous to others. We extend to others the divine kindness we have also undeservedly received. Generosity is seen in lavishly granting forgiveness to those who err or fall short. It is marked by pastoral care, hospitality, and inclusion. A moral vision of family, gender equality, sexuality, human rights and dignity, and social justice must be painted using the blood of Jesus Christ as the ink. This way, our moral vision is not characterized by condemnation of the different other or of the erring. It is not characterized by reactive position to disagreeing propositions. It is not characterized by defensive attitude of our cherished doctrines, or it is not characterized by coercive imposition of biblical truth. Instead, our ethical outlook is redemptive, and it must be redemptive. It enables us to visit the homes of sinners, to touch unclean lepers, to forgive adulterers, to disciple the outcast, to restore liars and doubters, and even die for the sake of our own enemies. I think it is only this way that our ethical discussions become truly evangelical, because they are clothed with the gospel of the life and death of Jesus Christ. Thank you very much for listening, and may God richly bless you.